Hi guys, welcome back. We are on video 2 for chapter 6. So how to measure utility. Now we said that we use utils, and we said utils is how we measure satisfaction. And this whole chapter is about satisfaction and what value means for consumers and how we define value. So we measure utility using total utility and marginal utility. Now, common sense, the word total, how many totals can there be? Just one. This is the bottom line. After an experience is done, after you have sampled everything, like you stayed at a hotel and now you're done and they send you a survey, how was your stay? They're asking for your total utility. They want to know overall, how did you enjoy something? How did you value something? Marginal utility is the additional utility that changes the total. So this is the one more unit. So for instance, you were supposed to stay at the hotel for 3 nights and you stay for a fourth night, and that is one more night that wasn't originally planned, and so that's going to change the total from the previous 3 nights. Let's look at this graph here a minute because I want to make a very important point to you. See this green curve down here? That is the marginal utility. Marginal utility descends because the idea is when you're staying at a hotel and then the second night, the third night, the fourth night, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the longer you stay, the less satisfied you're going to stay. Now, are there exceptions to that? Yes, there are always exceptions. And we will talk about the exceptions a little bit in a moment. But generally speaking, the longer you experience something, the less additional satisfaction you squeeze from it. We can think of this example here for pizza, okay? Look at this pizza. You're hungry. The first slice you eat, you give it 50 utils. It's delicious, partly because you're so hungry, partly because, your palate was cleansed and now you're introducing all these vibrant flavors and you're very excited. You give it 50 utils. The second slice, you're really not as hungry as you were before. The utils drop down to 20. So are you still enjoying it? Yes, but are you enjoying it less? Definitely. This would be like this one right here, right? So it's going from one has more value, two has less value. The third slice is gonna give you 5 utils. Notice it dropped drastically. You're getting to be full. You probably could have skipped the third one, but who knows why you decided you're gonna eat the third one. You squeeze very little satisfaction from it. Then the fourth one is disutility. It's this one down here. It's actually below 0. You are so overstuffed, it's not enjoyable anymore. I don't know if you've ever eaten past the point when you should have, and you're like, oh my God, I have to unbutton my pants. That is not a good feeling. You feel a little nauseated. You just know you're like not doing that again. I really have to be careful of that. Well, that's where we are. So the total, on the other hand, first you have 50. You added 20 to it from the second slice, you're up to 70. This is what I mean by marginal utility changes total utility. By the third slice, okay, there are 5 more. We're now up to 75. By the fourth slice, because it's a disutility of 2, your total drops to 73 because you are now down here. Now, how quickly you reach your disutility depends on what it is that you're doing and how much you enjoy it. But generally speaking, after a while, you can't eat anymore. After a while, you don't want to sleep and lie down anymore. After a while, you don't want to keep exercising. You've reached an end and you're no longer enjoying it. There is a point where it is too much, and now not only are you enjoying it less, but maybe not at all, and it's backfiring. Total utility. Look at how it looks like, right? It has it's an upsloping curve, but eventually it's going to begin to downslope. It's a bell curve, and why is that? Just like here. First, you're adding to it until you hit this utility, and then you begin to subtract from it. And you can see here how once you dip below 0 and you subtracted down at this utility down to 4, it got deducted from the total of 28 down to 24 here. So this is exactly what we're doing here, just different numbers, and why not, just to give you a variety. So when you see a bell curve pretty much, and even if it's not a partial bell curve, you know you're looking at total utility. And when you see this kind of descending and downsloping curve like that, you know you are looking at marginal utility. They don't really need to be labeled. Now, marginal benefit, right? The marginal utility, marginal benefit, because that's what the utility is. Think of what it is to be useful. When something is useful, it gives you a benefit. And this is why this is called that. So you were looking at the change in the total utility divided by the change in the quantity. And a marginal is what the total was versus where it is, where the quantity was, where it is, and the value divided by that quantity. We actually have some exercises coming up that are very similar to this. And you have some homework that is very similar to that as well. Okay, so the law of diminishing marginal utility. It's exactly what it says it is. You know how we said that marginal utility is just dips, and how we said that marginal utility is a bell curve? Well, this is telling you everything sooner or later is going to become less and less satisfactory until you get to a point where you reach this utility. So for a given period of time, obviously, the marginal utility gained from consuming equal successive units of a good will decline as the amount increases. In other words, it's guaranteed that as you consume more, you'll like what you're consuming ever less. Should you spend all your time and you meet somebody for the first time and you like them a lot and you're jiving and you're hitting it off, should you spend all your time with them? Obviously not. Why not? You ruin it. Because eventually you're going to kind of stop leaving on a high note and you begin to leave on a low note, and then people don't really want you to come back all that often. Should you wear your favorite pair of jeans every day? No. Why? Because you'll get tired of them. They'll stop being your favorite, and you might wear and tear them so much that what you liked about them stops being the thing that makes you, go back to them. The point is, anything you consume for too long, overdo, because doing can lead to overdoing, it's going to reduce your satisfaction, which is why an exciting life is one that doesn't have tremendous amount of routine. You want enough routine to be structured, but you want variation, enough variation to keep it interesting, so you don't spend too much time doing the same thing. So in other words, if I was to turn economics into something romantic, here's what I would say. When you propose to someone or say yes to someone's proposal of marriage, you are saying, you are the person with the highest marginal utility I know. This is how one economist may very well propose for another economist. You're saying, being with you day after day, month after month, year after year, my marginal utility is not dipping that severely. As a matter of fact, it might even mimic total utility a little bit, where it might increase as I get to know you a little bit more. It might increase the more I bond with you. Maybe eventually it'll drop in some ways, but it might actually, I may have multiple of these marginal utility curves with you, and some of them look like that, and some of them are even steeper and they last longer. That's basically what we're looking for when it comes to which job do we choose, which car, which house, which person, which vacation. We're looking at the highest marginal utility extended over the longest period of time, because some things will only eventually drop. This is where we come to our next slide. In reality, does the law of diminishing marginal utility always happen as described? No. It's not always going to dip. So for instance, dancing, getting a massage, hiking, eventually the marginal utility will drop, but not necessarily immediately. And the reason I give you these examples, like a dancing, right? Your first 2-3 songs, you're only like warming up and you're loosening up, and then you have a drink, and then you have a second drink, and you're dancing with your friends. The fifth, sixth, seventh songs, it might be actually more fun. Because now you're like you've warmed up, you're going, you're a little bit looser, and you're laughing a lot, and maybe not until song 11 or 12 before you're like, oh, I gotta go sit down, my feet hurt now. So it's much longer. It's not like the first dance is higher marginal utility than the second dance, and the second higher than the third, and the third higher than the fourth. It's not quite that linear, although it is explained to us in that way. I'm going to wrap up this video right here. When we come back, I'm going to discuss with you why the law of diminishing marginal utility is considered a law. And remember, laws are theories elevated, and they come first, they take precedence, they're more dominant. When you come back, I will go over that example with you, but understand it doesn't apply to everything under the sun. I'll see you in a bit in video 3.